Today on Nemology, we sit down with a guest who truly embodies what it means to build the American dream from scratch. Dante Andrade, real estate entrepreneur and founder of Touro Company, arrives in the United States from Brazil at just 18 years old, alone and with no roadmap, with just a vision that kept evolving as he grew. He went from being a professional jazz pianist to owning and operating over 1,500 multifamily units, leading teams, building systems, and creating a culture that has positioned him as a respected figure in the real estate world. In this conversation, Dante opens up about his journey, immigration, loss, resilience, leadership, tough decisions, and multi-million-dollar challenges, the power of win-win business, and the mindset that transformed his life and the lives of many of those around him. Get ready for an episode filled with vision, discipline, and continuous evolution. This is Dante Andrade. Welcome to Nemology. Dante, my man, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Nemo. Good to be here.
Dude, you've been to like pretty much most of our investor dinners. You were always coming out to support the children at the foundation. So we always appreciate that. But I wanted to have you on here because you're another real estate guy like myself. And I like the favorite people in the world for me to talk to are real estate guys. It's easy to understand. There's physical assets that we can see, feel, and touch. And it's really hard to bullshit.
That's very true.
Crypto, I don't know, man. that can go any way.
No, I'm 100% with you. And the kind of, we'll get into it, but my journey was actually getting to real estate is almost like getting back to the basics, right?
Yeah.
I can touch, I understand. If the expenses is lower than the rent, there'll be some cash flow and it's not going to go anywhere. Even if a hurricane, tornado takes it away like they do in Texas, you have an insurance policy that will replace it. So, made sense to me. So yeah, I agree with you. It's easy to understand and everybody understands, right? And it doesn't matter where you are in the world, for sure.
Now, you are originally from Brazil, right?
From Brazil, yeah. Born and raised in Brazil and always dreamed about the American dream.
Right.
As a kid in high school, I wanted to go to an exchange program and my parents thought I was too young to do that. So to leave the country, no one in my family has ever left the country. So at 14, 15 years old to go to another country, they're like, no, you're not going to do that. So I waited until I was 18.
Okay.
As soon as I finished high school, took off to Texas, small town Texas, very randomly. I ended up there and lived there 25 years so far and
wow,
stayed there pursuing the American dream. And over the years, the American dream have changed. Not only, I feel like for Americans in general, but for me personally, right? Your version of your dream at 18 is different than at 25, than at 30, than at 40. So I still, I'm a big believer in America. I'm a very big patriot. And I feel like the American dream is alive and kicking. I'm living probably my version 4 of the American dream right now.
I agree with that 100%. I am not American. In fact, I'm from Serbia, but I grew up in Canada. And I think that Canada has its own version of the American dream as well. And it is a very good country to get a good start in. But everything for me exploded when I went to America. The way that you're treated, the way that people do business, just the openness to risk and the understanding of how business is done. I mean, the capitalism, capital of the world, it truly, 10x'd everything that I was trying to do in Canada.
Do you feel like it is very different the way to do business between Canada and the US? I'm not too familiar. Yes. I have several friends from Canada, but I've never tried to do business with Canadians. I assume they would be the same way as in America.
Yes. So my biggest experience is definitely in the real estate industry. And I would say that the biggest difference between Canadian real estate investors and American real estate investors is joint ventures and partnerships. That's number one. In Canada, there is very little people that are willing to share knowledge. And if they typically have communities, they typically have events, paid masterminds, or paid coaching for you to gain access to that information. Where in the US, I found even one of my biggest mentors, Chris Rude, just an open conversation. Yeah, man, come to my house. Let's talk. Let's hang out. And I was a nobody. I had no idea about America. I had no idea about the market or real estate or anything there. He had no reason to actually share any knowledge with me. And yet he did. And immediately he said, well, you got some money? I said, sure. He's like, let's throw it into a couple of deals. Let's just do something.
Yeah.
Let's get you started. Here's how you get your ITIN number. Here's how you get your bank account open. Here's how you get a cell phone down here. So none of that stuff was a requirement for him to do. And in Canada, this is almost like highly guarded information where the people don't share as much unless it's at an event for your own content. The one-on-one conversations are a lot more strict and controlled, and everybody is most of the time looking at what they can get
Mhm.
rather than what they can give. So that's the biggest difference that I found, and I truly believe that that's a huge limiting factor for Canadians because you're only limited to what you personally can do rather than joining forces together
Sure.
with somebody else.
Very much so. I feel like, I've had the opportunity to work with people from different backgrounds and different, especially the US being a melting pot, but having a different background myself, traveling the world, and then being able to work with people from different cultures. I feel like it's very strong in America that anytime you're doing business, you want both sides to win. And
Yeah.
I feel like there's a lot of cultures that you can only win if the other part is losing,
Yes.
right? And America has a feeling like, all my vendors, I want them to be making money. I don't want them to give me a price that they're losing money because it's not going to be sustainable, right?
Yeah.
I want my team, I want my employees to be doing well. I'm excited when they're growing life, and they're doing big things.
Yeah.
So I feel like the whole country, for the majority, has this win-win culture, especially in business. And I think that's what makes it so prosper,
I agree 100%. I agree 100%. And I think that is the way. I think America has the perfect model for business. And of course, everything can be improved, but we have to look at what we have available right now. And I think that that mentality of partnership and joining forces is what makes you scale really quickly. Because if I'm on this side, you're on that side, I can do the quick daily, you can do the big stuff. So we both get benefit of those both sides instead of you trying to do everything yourself. I mean, and it's a lot more fun. I
Yeah.
think it's a lot more fun too. I want to ask you something about a very special person to me that I was always a huge fan of. He's a Brazilian, and I want to know what it was like because I think you were growing up when he was alive, Ayrton Senna.
Oh, yes, very much so. Oh, wow. uh, yeah, just that was like, soccer, of course, is the national sport of South America,
Yeah,
right? So, but right after soccer, and even when Brazil wasn't doing so well, we always had Formula One, Formula
yeah,
One, as we call it, with Senna just winning so much and doing so much for the country. Uh, it was really a connector because when you had the sports team playing, there was always, the different sides they're competing,
yeah,
right? When the Brazil was playing, yeah, everybody was on board, but that was only every 4 years or so. When Senna was winning and it was back to back to back to back, the whole country was united on that, right?
yeah,
Everybody was so proud. It became a national idol. And then I'm sure you've seen the documentary,
yeah.
right? If you watch this,
Amazing.
Shusha, who was the girlfriend for many years, she was a national idol also for all the kids. She was before Instagram and Facebook and everything else. So everybody watched more TV and everybody knew her. And then you have like these two idols get together.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like the
And I mean,
dream.
yeah, so it's just like the dream couple and the dream all together. It was fun watching. It was fun seeing, the what he went through on his career. And I remember, the very unfortunate accident and
Yeah,
how that happened. So the day that happened, I believe on a Sunday, the next day we pretty much didn't have school.
yeah,
So I was at a Catholic school at the time, and the the professors, everybody, just there was just one big TV in the room. Everybody was in this room just watching the parade and the procession. There was no school. Like the country literally
stopped.
stopped because of this one guy, right?
Wow.
So definitely an idol for the entire country. You've never heard anyone ever say a bad thing or mean thing about him. He was a philanthropist. He did so much for, for the areas that needed, for kids that needed. Definitely a massive loss, for the country when he went away. And watching the documentary, I was a kid, when that was happening, but watching the documentary and seeing actually how it got you there, kind of very upsetting,
Yeah.
kind of the powers that be and money decisions trumped the safety, of the pilots, and that happened. But he was, yeah, just. But remember like today, I was in seventh grade when that happened. And just the school stopping, I think for like 2 days, like a Monday and a Tuesday,
Yeah.
that there was nothing but just everybody, a lot of people crying and just watching on TV the procession, the parade, as he was heading to be buried. So
Yeah, I've always been one of the biggest fans of that because I think there's a couple of different kinds of people in the world. And I think that everything that he spoke of, like my parents never understood. I always loved adrenaline, I always loved doing crazy things. I loved cars so much. And he was one of the only people that I saw. I mean, obviously in interviews when he would talk about like entering this state,
mhm.
the only time that I truly felt super alive was when I entered that state. So when I was doing something crazy, whether like I played rugby or fighting sports or driving really fast, these are the moments where everything else stops and I feel like I see everything clearly. Where some people they might be like, this is too fast. It's like everything starts to slow down. So
Mhm.
when I was listening to that stuff, I always found ways to sort of um, assimilate that into business as well. Because every time that I had a really hard closing or a tough negotiation, I would take those lessons and try to implement them in the moment. It's like instead of being super stressed because it's not going my way, I have to do the opposite. I have to
Yeah.
slow down time, control the room, control the situation, and try to be the most calm and sensible person in the room to make something happen from this. And it's sort of like the same thing. I mean, obviously in life, you got to stop doing stupid things eventually.
Yeah.
You have to, certain things, there's certain things I would never do right now that I did when I was
Sure.
18.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you have to find an outlet for what you like. And that's where like business and especially real estate transactions have always been an exciting rush
Mhm.
for me because that is that intense moment
Yeah.
just translated to business. So what are some of the hardest deals that you've done? Because you're in commercial real estate, right?
Correct. Yeah, I got started in single family, just doing few flips and trying to just create passive income. I had a career before completely unrelated from real estate. So I actually went to college for jazz piano. So I was a professional piano player for many years.
No
Yeah,
way.
no one believes that.
I would have never thought that. Okay.
And yeah, so I played professionally. I had a business, kind of hiring bands and placing them at different parties and events. I
Yeah.
taught private lessons, church musician. I did it all, for like 10 years. I was working 7 days a week, afternoons, evenings, weekends, as a musician. I had free time in the mornings, right? Usually musicians don't work in the mornings.
Yeah.
So that's when I start to really get into, real estate and
Wow.
started with small condos, single families, but I started learning about multifamily. The numbers were just too big for me at that time. But s- kept hanging around people that were doing it, and like yourself, they were just open to talking about it and sharing their
Yeah.
experience. Right? It was just like asking, "Hey, can I go on a property tour with you? Can I? I mean, just different things, right? Due diligence. They're doing that a property. Like, can I join?" So through those experiences, uh, kind of my mindset changed and became like, you know what, the numbers are really big. I was dealing with houses that were like, I don't know, 40, 50 grand, 60 grand.
Yeah.
And then we're talking about millions now, seven
Right.
figures,
Huge
with
difference.
apartments. So to wrap my mind around, it was all about the networking and being around people that were doing that. And they were approaching the transaction the same way that I approached buying a $25,000 house, but they were buying, 2.5 million,
Yes.
and the numbers just kept growing from that. So being around that crowd really helped me. There was a mentor that I met at the time that had a program of teaching people, and kind of coaching them. So I joined that. And yeah, so I went from doing a few single families. I did not know construction, didn't have the background, but I would partner with people that have the background, and I would have my savings from piano lessons. And then I was investing that in with people that actually knew construction,
Yeah.
sharing the profits, and that start multiplying and growing from that. And then got into multifamily. So I jumped from doing, single family, just a few, I would say. And my first apartment complex was 75 units in Arlington, Texas. Uh, so in that kept going, from that level, and have, bought and traded, I don't know, 15, 20 properties over the years. We have Touro Company is the name of my company now. We own about 1,500 units. They're all in Dallas, all multifamily. and we got into third party managing. So we're now managing also assets for others, and we're also expanding, offering some accounting services, backhand accounting services to some owner operators that don't have the back office. So we're starting to do that. So it was
So
quite a
you got
journey.
1,500 doors.
1,500 doors ownership and managing a few hundred more on top
Wow.
of that, and it's we sold a few, we refinanced some, and it's been a fun journey. But started like I told you, my
Yeah.
first real estate purchase. It wasn't even my house; I was still renting. It was a $15,000 one bedroom condo in Dallas, which I still own up to this day.
What's it worth now?
Never
What's
sold
it
it.
worth now? Who knows?
120, 110, something like that. But
Amazing.
yeah, so that's kind of how it got started.
So what does it take? I mean, at this scale, at this level, what does it take to manage something like this? Because I mean, as long as I've known you, you've been hanging out here down in Medellin. So, you're not on the site being like, hey, the toilet's not working. What do we do about this? So
No, having a strong team, right? So I started when I got into multifamily. I was hiring third-party property management companies to run my assets, so I could have more freedom.
yeah.
Right. So my whole problem with the music career before, I made good money, like really good money for a musician, but I had to be physically doing the work,
Yes.
for 90% of the time to actually be making money. If I was not doing that, the money wouldn't come in. So my goal is to create passive income, and then real estate started to produce that. And so I was hiring third party property management companies to do it, and then decided back in 2020 that I was going to bring management in house. So I lost a lot of my freedom, and because it was just hard work building a
Yeah.
team.
Yeah.
It took time, but finally got the team to have a leadership team of about 5 people and total of about 50 employees. They are on site, actually some here in Colombia, and the having a strong team, there are boots on the ground, right? So like I'm here today with you in Medellin, but my team was visiting the properties today, right? And they're doing this on a daily basis. And they have a different lifestyle, right? Most of them married with kids. They don't want to be traveling around, or they can't be traveling around. So they're happy that they get to work from home and that they can, create their own schedule and go do, but they're still very present, right?
Yeah.
I'm at a different place in life and enjoy the freedom of being here, being in Asia, being back in the US for friend's birthday party as I did this weekend, knowing that I'm back here. So that's why you see me here so much.
Yeah.
And the company is still growing. It really goes back to the team. I feel like my most important job today is recruiting. Right. So everybody who's in a leadership position, even some of the on-site employees that are, on-site or in the office, I still interview them. So I'm part of the hiring process.
Yeah.
Because that's key. I feel like that's number one key for someone
Absolutely
that's
agree.
leading a company is recruiting.
Yes.
You get to a level, I think if you get to thousands of employees, then you're not going to be doing that anymore. But at the level we are, I'm very much so involved. I know the name of every single employee. The ones that have been with us longer, I've met their spouses, I've met some of their kids. So when I'm in Dallas, I'm very present, right? So I'm very present. I'm, visiting the properties. I'm meeting with the team. Friday, I just took my leadership team to a cheese making class and experience. So,
Awesome.
someone that was trained in Italy, one of the most traditional and famous, cheese factories in Dallas. We had a wonderful time. They brought their spouses. So whenever I'm there, I'm trying to be as present as I can. And then I come into Medellin, which I call is my home today. And I just love being here. And that's how it's being managed. And then today, being able to be online and overseeing things, a little harder for real estate because you gotta have the physical presence, right? For a construction job, for due diligence. But I have the team to do that, so that's why I'm very happy with. That's another version, I would say, of the American dream. But actually, being able to still doing business in the U.S., but being able to live anywhere in the world that I wish to.
Absolute blessing. I agree, and congratulations on that.
Thank you.
I think
Appreciate
that's a goal of many real estate entrepreneurs, that you want to get to that point. And on the hiring side, I believe you're 100% correct on that. I feel like my entire daily job is just the team
Mhm.
and not get involved in anything they're doing. not get involved in any of the doing of this stuff, because if you have to, I feel like you made a wrong hire or incorrect training, or there's an issue in your systems and processes somewhere. And I don't think that's scalable. And that was an issue that I always had in the beginning. I always thought, I just got to hire somebody. Everyone thinks like me. We're all the same. They're going to figure it out. It's all good. And then you realize, no, that's not true. You have to have the right people in the right places. And every single time you fail, it's always your fault. You have to take accountability for every single
100%.
mess up. It's never your team. It's always you, because you had an incorrect instruction, incorrect training, or miscommunication, or whatever it is. And that's the only way you can ever fix that.
Yeah.
Because if you're always just blaming the people, you'll never be able to get past
And
that.
you're at fault because number one, you hired. Number two, you let that person stay also, right? Lack of accountability.
Correct.
Or just being okay with 60%. Someone is a 60, 70%, and you're like, wow, it's going to be painful to change
to replace
that,
them. I don't feel like doing it.
Yeah, and then you let that go. Well, usually that 67%, it's going to get worse with time. It's not going to improve.
No, never.
Right?
Never
Usually,
improve. Yeah.
It's the best is right at the beginning.
That's right.
With a few adjustments. And so we got to be mindful and be able to take those actions over the years. Managing people. And that was a big change for me also, because, a few years ago, I didn't have anyone. I was just, one-man show, hiring third-party property management company. Then I hired an analyst. And it was just me and him. But then having a bigger team now.
Yeah.
So, there are the challenges that come with it.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
not, people are very volatile and emotional.
Absolutely.
Right? So everybody's going through their own troubles in life. I just heard this morning on a call that, a couple of people in our teams are going through a divorce right now. And, and that affects everything around.
Of course.
So you got to be managing and be aware of those things, but also be able to make the decisions like, if it's not a fit anymore, it's time to move on. And you're not only freeing your business from someone that's not being productive and effective, you're freeing that person to go live their best potential, right? So many times firing someone is a gift you're giving to them, because if they're not being, wonderful on your team, they probably need to be somewhere else where they have,
they can feel fulfilled.
When you hire them, you knew they had the potential. If it's not coming through here, it's because probably that's not the environment, right? They got to be at a different environment to do that. So I've become more, I don't want to use that word, but I will, because it came to my mind. I've become more cynical about the letting people go.
Yeah.
As far as like, if it's not working out, let's check. Of course, it's not, we're still checking to see what's going on, any adjustments that we can make. But with a small company, it's not like you have the luxury to just say, oh, you know what, let me move you to this different department. It's like either you get along or you don't get along. If you're not getting along, someone is going to have to go.
Yeah.
So kind of being way more diligent on the hiring part of it, multiple interviews, checking references, and a little faster on letting people go.
Yeah, I mean, that's what they say: hire slow, fire fast, right? Now, I got to ask you this about the multifamily property management side. Something that I've noticed is when you're getting started out, it's almost better to use another company to manage your properties, because you can't afford to pay people full time.
Mm-hmm.
But then you get to, a little bit of a scale. And sometimes what I notice is a lot of the property management companies, as they scale with you, as you're acquiring new units, those are obviously new units for their portfolio to manage as well. They kind of start to fall apart. And pretty much everybody that has as many doors as you has an internal management side. Why do you think that is?
I think 100% agree with you. At the beginning, you're not going to be able to have, even if you're very hands-on, you're not going to be able to be a accountant, a bookkeeper, and have your eyes 100% on all of that, right? Especially if you're playing at the larger size of property. Like I mentioned, I started with 75, and today we only look at anything that's like 150, 180 and bigger, right? So it makes sense to be using third-party companies, but I've seen exactly what you described. As those companies are growing, I feel like, and of course, I'm still running a very small business. I'm not there yet, but I like learning from mentors and always reading and listening to podcasts from people that are, 10 years ahead.
Yeah, right.
And what it takes to run a small company is very different than what it takes to learn to run a larger company. And I think that shift gets lost because you have a lot of people when you started out that may be, and I have that right now within my company, have people that I knew from different backgrounds, or I have people that are friends or family that join you, and everybody's on that mission. But the person sometimes that takes you from 0 to 2 is not going to be able to take you from 2 to 10. Now, many times, sometimes it can if the person is growing, it's learning, and it's working on themselves. But if it's someone that feels, not putting as much effort to learn and grow, they will great from 0 to 2, but they're just not going to have the skill set to get you to 10. So either they go back to another 0 to do from 0 to 2 again, right? And they work really well at that setting. Um, but they so in a lot of the companies miss that, and they try with the same team that got you to 0 to 2. Now, well, let's 10x this. Well, you gotta need different leadership, different vision, different skill sets. Everybody's gonna a little bit more specific in what they do. We have a lot of jack of all trades, because we're running a small company. You got to be able to do a lot of things. So I think that's a flaw as growing the business. And
Yeah.
that's something that I am working through right now and trying to learn from people that have done it successfully, and trying to learn what to do and how to grow, and also how to coach the people that are with you, from because you don't want to say, oh, no, now it's time to let everybody go. No,
Yeah.
we value loyalty, we value growth, but everybody's got to be wanting also to grow and to learn, right? And in hiring, key specific of what you're missing, right? Complementary skill sets from what you have. But I think that's a big factor that happens with a lot of property management companies. Not only multifamily, but I see that in single family. I see that with retail and in some other areas. I would say, as far as the number of units, we actually did this a little too early. You to really have a strong team, because the problem is you're thinking, let's say, at 1,000 units. Like, you know
Sure.
what? If you do the math, how much money you're spending on paying property management fees is like, I can hire a team. But you're not gonna have the best team, at least leadership, if you're
Yeah.
not being able to pay top dollar.
Right.
And payroll has increased, I don't know, 40%
Yeah.
over the
That's
past 4
a
years, right?
huge factor.
In the US. So you have to be mindful of that and be able to. So we did. I brought management in house with the idea we're gonna acquire 5 assets, like in 2022, right? And we did, and that didn't happen. So the company has been running, the properties have been running super efficiently and really well. But I have a team that's right now only working at, let's say, 60 or 70% of their potential, because we just didn't have enough units.
Yeah.
And as you know, with interest rates, the multifamily market shift completely. So we have not acquired anymore. So, and that's why the shift to now offering third-party property management services, because we can handle more units.
Right.
I feel very comfortable. My team could be handling about 2,200 units right now, and we are at 1,700 now. So that was the goal, to do that, because we have a team that's highly paid, highly experienced. My whole leadership is more experienced in multifamily than I am, right? I have, and majority of them are older than me also, and with a ton of experience from coming from large companies.
Yeah.
That just believed on the mission, believed what I was trying to build. Is like, well, let's join forces. So so I would say 2,500 units is a really good number.
Yeah.
2,000 to 2,500 to be able to do that. If you're in a growth path, it makes sense to do it earlier. But if you're not growing, if you're stuck at 1,000 units, even 1,500 units, it's tough to be sustainable. Having a capable team, you
Yeah.
can have with some B players, but you have all A players and people that are like on top of their career. It takes a lot of money to do that.
Yeah. That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense, actually. So when you were in that kind of like shift in the market, like what were you because you had a plan to buy 5 new assets, right?
Mhm.
So what were you thinking? What happened? How did you pivot?
So 2022, we had already taken management of all of our assets, a year before, and that was the goal. The team is on board. Feel like we had systems process. We got a property under contract. It was a 248 unit apartment complex in close to Fort Worth for $40 million. We got that under contract, and interest rates started to creep up. Actually, it was the notion that was going to creep up. It hadn't happened yet. And the lender came and retraded us. At the same time, the property was uh, having issues with delinquency and operations. So the lender said, well, your loan is now $2 million less. And I went back to the sellers and said, well, I cannot pay you the 40 million because now, I'm not going to be able to deliver those results to my investors when I have, $2 or $3 million less in proceeds from the loan. uh, they didn't accept it. So that deal actually fell through. So it was the first time I put something on the contract that it didn't close. And it was very costly. We had non-refundable earnest money, and we made a decision at the time to take a loss. It was just me and one partner, uh, because we had investors that had been with us for several years, and we didn't want to have something that we promised something we didn't deliver. We had another two assets, a portfolio, put it on the contract. That was our largest acquisitions, 524 units in Irving, Texas, two properties that sit next to each other. There was a $80 million acquisition price. In the middle of that, interest rates started to go up. So we bought rate caps that would, keep the interest rate, at a manageable place. But the price of the interest rate cap went from, I'm gonna make up the number here, but 50 or 75,000 to 350.
Yeah.
Right on
Yeah.
two assets. Now you're looking at a massive, change. So actually, at that time, we went back to the seller and say, "Hey, look at the price when we started this process, and look where we are now, and I just can't pay you the same." So we retraded just about $1 million on that deal, and we were able to close. Uh, we didn't buy anything else for the rest of the year, just because interest rates rose historically fast. The market all shifted, and sellers, we still had an expectation that prices didn't come down. Well, you just couldn't pay that anymore because you just couldn't get the loan that would fulfill that, right? To be able to deliver the returns. And really, we've been stuck on that game for 3 years now. I have another business which I've been doing buyer brokerage for the past 10 years, helping people buy multifamily in Texas. So I'm a licensed realtor, work with a broker. And on that business, at times I was closing 30 transactions a year. 2024, we didn't close anything.
Wow.
Right. So 2023, we closed, 6 assets. So it went from 30 in 2021, 2022 to drop into that number. So the market completely shifts.
Yeah.
And it's still at the bottom. It has not got out of the bottom, and no one knows how long it's going to stay there.
Wow.
So it's the challenge on that has been you put a team in place and you're ready to grow and everybody's excited, and then the growth doesn't come, becomes a little still.
Yeah.
So keep people motivated and moving forward and still working really hard on the things, because just when you acquire something new, it's like when you bring someone new to the team, it has a fresh energy that goes all around, right? Anytime we get a new property, all the other properties happen to improve just because we're like refreshing the systems, the process, and everything else. And we haven't done that. So that's been challenging, with the change in the market. I feel we're very lucky. So 2 of the assets we had bridged that with variable loan interest rates that went from 2% to 8%. We were able to refinance out of those to fixed loans. So we completed that back in April. So those 2 are now cash flowing and doing well. And that's one of the reasons, like, had we not be self-managing those assets, I think we would have lost them to the bank. So being able to be hands-on, make changes really quickly, paid off.
Yeah.
All the efforts of having, the building the property management and being really hands-on with the whole operation.
Wow. That's actually very interesting. That's very interesting. So I have a question for you. Obviously, real estate, OPM is super important, other people's money. Now, at your level, compared to when you were getting started, what is the difference? What does that look like in how you approach, growth or a new asset? How much money are you still raising, and how much are you working with lenders and banks?
So very differently than South America, right? Everything we do in the US with real estate is using a lot of leverage, right? And the more leverage you can have, bigger payout really you're going to have for your investors. There is more risk attached to it. for the whole last decade, between 10 and 20, we didn't think there was any risk attached to it. But now a lot of people is getting caught up with the higher interest rates. There is a lot of risk in being high leverage,
Yeah.
right? Uh, the At the beginning, when I came in, like I mentioned, I was doing just cash deals with the houses. And I really came into multifamily and think, well, I'm gonna buy a 12-plex or a 20-plex, and just maybe me and somebody else with, some of the cash we have saved, and, getting a bank loan. Being around people that were doing much larger deals changed my mindset, because it's actually a lot easier to manage 120 units than it is to manage 20 units.
Yeah.
So it changed my mindset, and I really didn't think that I was going to be able to raise money. So my first property that I bought, multifamily, I needed to raise $1 million. And I honestly, and I already was around a group of people that I knew, what I mentioned, like that I joined
Yeah.
a mentor that had a whole pool of people that are like retirees, high income earners that wanted to invest in real estate but didn't have the time. And they were looking for people like myself that were like boots on the ground, chasing deals to be able to invest with. So that first deal really, I'm looking like, if this doesn't come through, I'm going to lose my earnest money. And are people really, the question that I'm asking, I'm being vulnerable, is like, are people really going to hand $1 million for the piano player
Yeah.
to go buy,
Right.
a larger, multi-million-dollar apartment complex? And they did, right? So, like we talked earlier our conversation today, people understand real estate. It's easy to understand.
Yeah.
You understand numbers. And once I presented this property that was 1968, 75 units, being run by the same not landlord, slumlord, for the past 13 years, full of problems, city, state, everybody wanted that guy to get out of the way. Uh, Once I show that, the price that we're paying per door and the potential, everybody. So I got that funded within 24 hours. So I remember, like, it was a Sunday afternoon, sending out a PDF that I put together, I don't know, 8 or 10 pages. And I emailed to about 30 people that I
Wow.
knew that were interested. They either invested or they were looking to invest. And by Monday afternoon, I had that money committed. Right? So that was a turning point, I would say, in my career. Just like, wow, okay. And once you get that one done and it's working, well, now you have something to show, right?
Yeah.
Like, I've done
Yeah.
this, right? And this has been a success. I'm just copy and pasting to this other one. So it went from, the small condos and houses, as I mentioned, being done with cash, to that one property, which that was a bank loan, 75% leverage. Uh, and today, most of the deals we're doing are anywhere between 70 to 80%
Wow.
leverage. We've done, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, kind of the quasi-government agencies in the U.S., finance a lot of housing, and they have, we can get right now 5% interest rate on a very large multifamily loan, which you cannot get if you're going to buy a house, right? The rate is much higher. So there is a lot of programs that are help because we're providing housing, right? And they want to make sure that you're providing safe and stable housing for people.
Yeah.
Just one of the missions of the government to do that. So they have those programs that help. So everything that we're doing, at least 75% leverage. If you go down to 70% leverage, start to squeeze the returns for the investors, and it just becomes hard to. And some of the deals have closed lately with 65 to 70% leverage.
Yeah.
But the prices of the deal had to come down for the returns. Investors are looking at IRR, and the returns still have to be there.
No, that makes complete sense, man. I want to ask you a personal question. This can be in your personal life, in your business life, family, whatever it is. You've done a tremendous amount of things. You have gotten your version of the American dream, but I would assume that it probably wasn't easy getting to your point where you are right now. So what would you say in your life was your darkest moment?
Wow. I mean, there is one that really stands out, but it was very early on before career started. But I unfortunately lost my dad at 16 at a tragic accident that happened at the time. Uh, who was really young? He was 46 at the time. So I would say that was the darkest point. It was a turning point for me. I kind of at 16 became in charge of a lot of things in my household. We were not My dad left us a pension to my mother. We didn't have a financial change in our lives, but decisions with, you know, moving or buying a new car or really how to invest the funds, right? My parents were both savers their entire life. So we always had savings and they were, saving for help us with college and things like that. So I became the point of contact at the local bank
Wow.
at 16, right? Managing, at the time, my mom received some life insurance from his job and like just managing that. So big responsibilities that fell upon me for that time frame. And then 2 years later, I moved to the US and on my own.
Yeah.
So and then started my life. So I would say that was the darkest point. I still do not understand why it happened, right? Don't go into the spiritual realm to think about that. But how can you take something that bad and use not as a positive, but as a tool, for the rest of your life? So
Hmm.
what I've done, I feel like that was the toughest thing that ever happened to me. Anything else that came across my life that I feel like, man, this is really hard to deal with. This is a struggle. I would go back and think about that and say, you know what? That was the worst that happened. And I became a happy, fulfilling, just, citizen and adult again. So even at any sad moment that came, when I put in perspective to that, it's like, a piece of cake. Okay,
Yeah.
let's figure that
Wow.
out.
Wow.
So I've used that experience multiple times in my life when anything else showed up, just say, you know what, this is actually not that bad. Be able to, and you've immigrated also, so but just the up and downs of a teenager being an immigrant on a foreign
Yeah.
country, trying to figure out, and I've had all kinds of jobs you can imagine. And up and down of not having family close by. That was before FaceTime and WhatsApp, which
Yeah.
now I now call my mom at any time, talk to her. We're close even though we're far apart.
Yeah.
Back then it was $20 for a calling card when I was
Yeah. Oh
making
my God, I remember that.
$8 an hour,
Yeah, yeah.
so I had to work like 3 hours to buy the calling card. And if someone didn't answer, if I got, the answering machine, well, that was a $4 connection fee.
That's right. Oh my God, I remember that.
I feel like I'm really talking about this. That's really old, but it's not that old. It's only
oh, it's crazy, man.
it's only
Yeah.
like I don't know, 18
Yeah.
years ago, 20 years ago. It was like this.
Yeah, I remember me and my dad would go over to the local like mini mart or whatever, and we'd get a $1 movie rental, and you'd get that card, and then you got a call, and you got this many minutes, and
Yeah.
the connect. Yeah. Oh my God. I remember looking at it, and parents were always, "Oh, this is so expensive.
Yeah,
You have to be there when I call you. It's gonna be at this time.
exactly.
Make sure you answer. This is super important, or like somebody's gonna call. We gotta go home."
Yeah.
Like that was so serious. Whereas now you're like, WhatsApp, FaceTime. What do you want? Whatever.
Yeah,
we can
everybody's
fit it.
present the entire
Yeah.
time, right? So
Yeah.
it's much easier to go through this. My brother and family just immigrated from Brazil to Dallas
Yeah.
about a month and a half ago. So seeing their experience, how it was different from mine 25 years ago, I was like, this is easy.
Yeah.
What are you crying about? This is easy.
I mean, look, I agree 100%. Like, this is like, I guess my one, two, three, so my third immigration to Colombia. And because I went from Serbia, went to Canada.
How old
Canada
were you
to
when you moved
US.
from Serbia?
I was 8.
8. Okay,
I
so
was
your whole
8.
family came.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was me, my mom, my dad. We went to Canada. And then it was about like 2019, I started going to Florida. And then pretty much when the pandemic lockdowns came, I was there full time. So then I came 2 years ago to Colombia, and like my immigration here is just, because number one, I've done it a couple of times
Yeah.
now, so I kind of know what to expect. And the second thing, ChatGPT.
Yes.
Like, dude, I know that everything is harder in the world. I know everything's more expensive. I know that, like the American dream we talked about, it looks different today
Yes.
than what it did in the 50s, when one guy working a normal job can afford 2 cars,
Yeah.
single income,
Working
college
at
for the kids.
at the Ford factory in Detroit.
And just amazing life. I know it's different, but at the same time, the opportunities were different back then too. You couldn't just up and leave and go wherever the fuck you want and do whatever
Yeah.
as easily as you can today. You couldn't make money online. You couldn't do all the things that we can today.
Very much so.
So right now, when you have all the answers in the palm of your hand, and if you're not happy, if you're not successful, I think the biggest reason for that is you're just not asking enough questions. You got to be asking some more questions.
Yeah.
How do I, whatever, fill in the blank? It does the work for you.
Yeah.
But you have to prompt it. It's not going to do it by itself.
100%. And getting started. I had a mentor, never met him in person, but Dan Miller, he passed away last year. He wrote a couple of amazing books on career and jobs, and I used to listen to his podcast religiously. And he would always talk about people had a dream, or they'll dream about something, and they're like, you know what, I'm going to do this. This is what I want to do. This is what I'm going to pursue. And they'll be waiting for the opportunity, right? The opportunity will never show up. And then somebody else, and this whole idea of like, you got to follow your passion, you got to follow your passion. Yeah. Sometimes you're not going to discover your passion is until you start doing something that's going to lead you to something else, that's going to lead you to something else.
That's right.
Right? Once you start doing it, then another door is going to open that you just couldn't see it. Like you just didn't have the knowledge to ask that prompt to ChatGPT, right? Because you just stuck, we can only see what we already seen, like what we know, right? So being around people that have seen the world in a different way, that have gone to other places, but actually take the first step, go from 0 to 1 on whatever it is, right? I have a real life example of this. When I was doing the flipping the houses, and then I decided to and I had already kind of started on multifamily, and I decided to get my realtor's license. And someone asked me, what are you going to do with it? I was like, I'm not sure, but it's education. And I just want to do it to learn. And it may open some doors.
Yeah.
So I didn't have a clear path. I had some ideas, but I started doing the license. Like, oh, it's only a few $100.
Yeah.
It's 200 hours. I can do this. And I started doing that. Because I was doing that, on a conversation with somebody else came the opportunity to do the brokerage, which I mentioned, right? And that became the most fun part of my career. Up to this day, what I most enjoy doing is making deals, because I'm representing buyers. I didn't have any risk, right? And was doing multiple transactions. Have gone on amazing trips with clients, with brokers, the listing brokers taking me on amazing trips, just because I was bringing them good buyers. I was providing a service that both sides were happy, both sides were winning. Had I not decided to just go get my license just for growth and knowledge, I would have seen that opportunity or never have shown up, right?
Very true.
The opportunity probably would walk by me, just like someone walked by here outside, your beautiful studio. But then if the door is not open, if I'm not looking, I'm just not going to see it.
That's true. That's absolutely true. I mean, look, I never knew what was going to happen for me going to Florida. I just realized that I hate lockdowns. I hate COVID. I hate the fact that my jobs are being shut down. My projects are getting stop work orders. Like everything is stagnating.
Yeah.
I need to just take action. And I had to drive 36 hours to Florida. I couldn't fly because the airports were shut down.
And you went wild, because you went from the most locked down place in North America to the most open place in North America. So
yeah, exactly. And I was like,
good
oh my
foresight.
God.
You picked the
freedom.
best place to be. Yes,
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it opened all the doors. And then the same thing, I heard one guy at one mastermind, you had to pay to go, of course. But one guy said something about Colombia. I opened up my call center here, opened up another one in Egypt to supplement this one for the lead gen. These were the closers. And then I realized, it's really hard to have remote closers, and it's a high turnover business. Your churn rate of employees is super, super high. You can't keep them motivated. You can't keep, like, if they're doing bad, you got to get rid of them. If they're doing decent, it's almost impossible to motivate them. If they're doing extremely well, they usually blow up because they make too much money and then they got to go spend it, or they just blow up mentally.
Yeah.
So it was like, that was the three things that were happening. And I figured, I'm like, what is the problem with this? Like, you guys are all like doing so good, on path to like kill it, make it. What is the issue? And I realized it wasn't the money, it was the culture. It was the culture. Because when you're sitting by yourself at home and you're not used to making $10,000 a month, and suddenly you got a job and now you're doing $10,000 a month in commission, you explode. You just blow up. You don't know what to do with it. You have to do something, and most of the time they make bad decisions. And if you're not there, then there's no real reason to try harder. So you're just kind of lulling by, you're not right. You're not quite on my radar where I want to get rid of you, but you're not really impressing me either. And we're just kind of in that lull mode where you're just doing the bare minimum. And I realized having an office in person. That's the reason I ended up coming down here, because once that got set up and the office culture was there and the little jokes at lunch or by the water cooler or the competition or whatever, that's what people stay for. They ended up staying for that a lot longer, and that's what changed. And it's like, if I just stayed in Canada, what would have happened? I wouldn't have had any of these other opportunities that came along. And I didn't predict any of this. I mean, I didn't think I was going to go to Colombia and buy a hotel, but then I did. And it's like,
And I loved hearing your trajectory of buying the hotel and how much you've learned of dealing, you know, with
Huge.
city politics and everything
Yeah.
else that goes with doing business in South America. So yeah, but look how much you've learned,
Yeah.
right, from that experience, and how much easier it would be now to replicate that.
Yeah.
Right. If you want to.
yeah, it's just action.
Yeah.
You know, success loves speed,
Yeah.
money loves action. Just keep moving. And on the passion part, you know, I agree with you. And I don't think, honestly, I don't think passion is the most important thing. I think getting yourself situated, keeping yourself safe, your family safe, everybody fed and healthy, and having a little bit of a cushion,
Mhm.
maybe 6 months to a year, just to maintain your lifestyle in case you're not happy with where you are or something happens. I think that's the first goal, not passion.
Mhm.
Passion is something that the rich always say this. I mean, I've seen multiple podcast interviews, and I truly agree with it. You know, make your money, then use your money and spend it on your passions. Don't try to just follow your passions and make
Correct.
money from it, because it doesn't always work out.
Yeah.
And, you know, along the way, like you said, you might just find what it is you're looking for.
Yeah.
You might be like, oh, like, you know, I got multifamily and I'm a pianist, but suddenly I'm a broker and I enjoy this so much.
The
Like,
most, yeah. But your brain just haven't seen it yet,
It
right?
hasn't,
Maybe you think,
exactly.
oh, like this is my passion. You don't even know, because if you haven't experienced, you haven't tried those things, and this goes especially for someone in their, you know, in their 20s.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, just don't get stuck. You know,
No.
be mindful of your decisions. And try different things.
Try-
right?
yeah, that's
Go
super
to-
important.
You know,
Yeah.
take on opportunities, say yes to multiple things, and go do that. When I started being a broker, you know, I had a mission. I would say yes to anything I was invited to. Any networking event, anything that was
Beautiful.
related to real estate or multifamily, I would say yes to.
Beautiful.
And that opened so many doors. That made me connect with so many people that was important later. As I became busier and, you know, income went up, I became more selective what I say yes to, right? My time now became a priority. But at that time, the priority, and I used to joke with my clients, I have no wife, no pets, no kids, and I'm here, 24/7,
Yeah.
and that's, and I'm like, no one can out network me, and that was my strategy
Yeah.
at the beginning,
Yeah.
and it worked.
Yeah. No, I love that, dude. So you may have mentioned it, and you said Dan Miller, right? But who would you say was your biggest influence or coach or mentor in your life?
And I've had many.
Many.
I
yeah.
would say, and I'll go back to one of the most real estate people go back to is Robert Kiyosaki.
Yeah.
Right. So when I was working through it and investing and saving, I was not in real estate and trying to, make it through the stock market, through traditional investment. And then when the crash of 2008 came, I went and I had read all of Robert Kiyosaki's books, right? So I read the first one, Rich Dad Poor Dad, and then the next one, read everything by him. So definitely with the way that I feel like my parents already lived kind of his way of living,
Yeah.
but many times listening to somebody else beyond your parents, it's important when you
For
are
sure. Yeah,
19 or 20. You want to hear from somebody else.
Yes.
And he went beyond, right, what my parents did as far as, investing in businesses and moving to the right side of the quadrant and all that, but buying assets, not buying liabilities. So, I was, I don't know, I'm trying to remember the years. Like 10 years later already living in the US, I was still driving the 94 used Honda Civic that I bought when I first arrived.
Yeah.
Right. And I could have bought something else. Well, had I done it, I would not have money to invest on that $15,000 condo that I mentioned to you that kind of opened the door for other things. So Robert Kiyosaki definitely a big influence in my life. 2017, I got to go on a real estate cruise and meet him in person.
Oh, wow.
So that was an amazing experience.
Out of Florida? Was that out of
Out of Florida,
Yeah?
yeah, with the real estate guys.
Yes. Yeah.
So that was a ton of fun, and just to show up and say, "Hey, I just want to say thank you."
Yeah.
And he was so pleasant to speak with, and he was like, "Where are you from?" I was like, "From Brazil." He's like, "Oh, I loved being in Brazil," and he went on to talk. So I just wanted to say thank you because he was a big influence in my life. Dan Miller was another one, just from career, thinking about you set how you want to live your life. Your job doesn't do that, right? You decide,
Yeah.
and then was like, you, where you want to live, where does your family, what's important for your family, you go do that, and then your job is gonna adjust to it.
That's right.
In America, many times we have it the opposite way around, that your job is dictating, everything you're doing in your life. So Dan had that and many other foresights like what I just shared. uh, there is one other person, Brad Sumrock. He's in Florida. He's someone that I joined the group. He started investing in multifamily back in 2002 and has been extremely successful. We started mentoring people. So I met him in 2011, but being around him and his group really opened up my mind to see things that I didn't think were possible. Right. So uh, I'm now mentoring him on Medellin. He's been here a couple of times. He's
Yeah,
made
yeah,
some
yeah.
friends here,
Okay.
and he's like, "This is exciting," So he's loving. So it's fun to see, someone that you always look up to and as your mentor, and his program and what he put together really was life changing for me, and I'm forever thankful to him for that. But it's fun now to be living, going to try another country, and then so he's come down a few times, and he's like,
Are
"This
you
is
investing
awesome."
down here too?
Not yet.
Not yet. But Brazil?
No, never done
No.
anything in Brazil. Everything I've done has been in the US. The only investment I have here is my place, my house
Yeah.
here. I intend to. I feel like Medellin is growing amazingly fast. Amazing talent here. There's a lot of talent. We have, I think, 4 or 5 people, and we're hiring somebody else right now. We're interviewing here in Colombia, and we're planning to expand our team in Colombia. Just amazing talent, hardworking people, which is core for a country and a city. And I feel like the mayor, the city is investing into infrastructure also.
Yes.
So you
Yes.
see things improving, you see the parks, you see police presence. So, and cranes everywhere. I mean, there are
Yeah.
cranes everywhere. And because we don't have leverage here, mostly our cash deals, it's not a bubble. As a lot of people talk about, it's a bubble. It's hard to have a bubble when it's all cash.
Yeah, 5% of
Right.
all of Colombian property is actually mortgaged. 5%.
That's it? 5%? Oh, wow.
That's the figure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm not investing here yet. It's kind of, I bought my house and went through the process of rehabbing it. It took like a year. So I was learning a lot about dealing with, doing business on a new country, even though, I have the background of being Brazilian, but I've actually never done business in Brazil as I left
Still, yeah.
at a young age. And but I intend to, because I think there is a lot of potential, a lot of growth here, and it's not gonna stop.
Absolutely. I mean, you got to come on some of our councilman walks. I mean, we actually do the tour with the councilman, and we met with the mayor. We met with the next mayor. So how it works here, it's kind of different. The mayor's actually, like the cool thing that I love about their politics is that it's very hard for them to become career politicians
Mm.
in like those kinds of places of office, and they have to be forced to work together. This is the key part. So they say, I'm mayor now, but I can only be mayor for 4 years. After that, you got to be mayor. And then I might go back or somebody else. So they're all kind of working together rather than, somebody's just trying to like dominate and
Yeah.
exterminate the other side. So there's a lot more, which is interesting to see,
Yeah.
coming from like us in the North, where it's like red or blue and
Left and right
like,
fighting the entire time.
That's the entire time. So that's very interesting. And I think that it's undeniable what Medellin needs. I mean, there's huge gentrification happening. We need more housing. We got to put people somewhere, and we're in a valley, in a mountain where you can't build anymore.
Yeah.
So everything's being rebuilt. So we spoke to them, and actually the cool and interesting part is in Laureles, by the airport, where they're actually building those like man-made lakes. Did you see that?
Yeah, I did see that. That's
How-
another example.
The only
Yeah.
thing we're missing here is the water and
Yes.
beachfront, and now we're gonna get it. So incredible.
Yeah.
Now the cool thing about across that, so this is what he told me. So he was kind of giving me a history lesson on how that happened. Right in front of that is all the barrios, right? Now the issue that they have with the barrios is most of the time people don't pay taxes because they don't work legal jobs, or if they do work some kind of job, everything is handled in cash. And the property taxes don't really exist there because everything is illegally built.
Yeah, there is no deed, there is no
There's
no
nothing.
title, and it's just, people building on top of
Some
each
guy had a
other, right?
farm. Some
Yeah.
other guy came, can I build here? He's like, sure.
Yeah.
And now you got a barrio. So the issue there is that, they have to find a place for these people. So they're going to be doing a lot more, and they're inviting. So this is like the APP, so like the private and the public association. They're inviting investors to participate in some of these incentives where they'll give us tax breaks. They'll also, they have a fund that's been curating for the last 7 years that's ready to go as soon as this current president is out of office, because he kind of put a stop to it, but he can only stay here 4 years. And when he's gone, pretty sure that this is just going to go that way.
Okay.
So the cool thing is now they're going to expatriate all of those people. They're going to be building low-income housing in other places with tax incentives for investors, which never existed before, which is why nobody builds anything here.
Correct, yeah.
And those places are going to be turned into middle to upper middle housing. So that is going to be, beachfront property in the middle of a mountain, essentially, or as close to a beachfront property as you can get.
Sure.
When you're in this kind of location. But that is something that's going to be absolutely tremendous for Medellin. And I think that's what's going to be just putting it higher and higher up, as high as it can go. Because to me, this is my favorite place to be in the world right now. People
I agree with you.
Where are you traveling? 100%. I'm like, what travel? Why? I'm here. I already made it. I'm good.
My whole decision, I never thought I would own a second home in a place that did not have a beach, because I grew up by the beach. In Dallas, we don't have a beach. So I miss it. But every time I would come visit, and I'm heading, in Las Palmas to the airport, and I'm like, I'm sad.
Yeah.
Why am I sad? And the buddy of mine was traveling with me from Dallas also was like, are you also sad? He's like, I am. I was like, why are we leaving? So, kind of multiple times that happened. I was like, you know what? I just got to buy a place here and be here. So, and, and the people are just so amazing and welcoming, talented, and just the most warm people that I've met anywhere in the world traveling. So I just love being here. And, I tell people that I'm a paisa. They don't believe me because of my accent in Spanish, and but I just love their culture and love being here, and I'm just.
Well, the funny thing is, my accent in paisa is almost perfect. So when I come in and I go,
I gotta take some lessons from you, then,
bro. I don't know what it is. My vocabulary is catching up to my accent, actually. So I go in, I'm like, "¿Qué más mío?" And they're like, "Oh yeah." So I go somewhere with my wife. I order a coffee.
Yeah.
They look at her. They think she's a gringa.
She's Colombian. And you're the local.
And so the funny thing that happens is sometimes I'll say it so perfectly, so fast, that they'll return the same to me, and I'm like, fuck, I don't know what he said. And then they look at her and they're like, oh, like, what do you want? And she's like, well, I'm paisa. He's not even from here. He's from Serbia. What do you mean?
You must have been proud the first time that happened.
Yeah.
Huh?
I started laughing. She's like, what? She's like on her phone. She's like, what? Like, you're talking to me in English? Like, what the fuck? But that's hilarious, awesome. Man. Yeah. So I want to get into one question. It can be, again, same thing. What was your biggest mistake?
Well, there are a few, but pick the biggest one. Well, I'll give you two. Okay, I'll give you one that's current, and then I'll give you one that's more kind of a theory and just bigger picture. The portfolio that I bought in 2022, not being through a down cycle in real estate, and buying that size, and not having the foresight. Well, no one had the foresight what interest rates was going to do, right? Sure. And I've been punishing myself many times that I made a mistake, but I got a ton of people around me that are in the same boat.
Yeah.
But I also have people like the seller of that property that he was actually getting out of everything during that time, right? Yeah. And he's someone that I'm very friendly with. And he was selling everything during that time. He only ended up, he had a very large portfolio. He ended up with just a couple of properties. So going with had I not made that purchase, it would have changed my my growth plans and everything else. But actually, I've put in so much money of my own money to be able to sustain the properties so that my investors don't lose, that I can tell you, I regret buying those properties.
Yeah.
I was still working through it. It's, and we just got an extension from the lender. and we bought 2 more years. But I had for the first time to go back to my investors and have a capital call, which I never done before. I've always paid tons of dividends and made
Yeah,
everybody money.
yeah.
This time I was like, not only I'm not giving you money back, but I need more money to
Yeah.
sustain this. And here's the plan. Here's how I'm gonna do it. So yeah, if I could go back in time, definitely I went for something that was super large, but everybody around me were buying. You
Yeah,
get with the
of
flow and you
course.
go. We didn't have the foresight the Fed was going to do what they did, completely changed the economy. Um, it was a mistake buying something on variable debt. Okay, so at that time, I didn't have any other option. I wish I said, you know what? If I cannot do fix that, I'm just gonna be on the sidelines. Let me go do something else, or let me look at, I don't know, self-storage or car washes or something
Whatever,
else
yeah.
instead of doing this, right?
Wow.
But I was on a path, I had a team in place, and I almost feel like I should be growing, and everybody around me were doing that. But I've always lived my life a little different than everybody else, right? When everybody was driving a brand new BMW, I still had the 94 Honda Civic. And I was doing things differently. And at that time, I felt like I went with the flow. I went with everybody else around me. So far, it has cost me a lot of money having those assets. I'm hopeful that over the next 2 years, we'll be able to, if we have changes in the economy, interest rates, with real estate, if you have time, you
Yeah.
make money.
It always fixes
Right?
itself. Yeah.
The problem is running out of time with the lender.
That's right.
So trying to work favors with the lender and keeping a close relationship with them, but they control me at those assets right now. So that's one mistake that's developing, still in progress.
Yeah, yeah, fair enough. Yeah. It makes sense.
Still in progress.
Makes
Hopefully,
sense, yeah.
hopefully in a few years I'll tell you that actually we'll recover from that
We're all
mistake.
good, yeah.
But it doesn't look like a clear path right now towards that. And I would say another one, it was not starting earlier on what I started doing it. I took a lot of time on the sidelines because of mindset. So I wish in my 20s that I had, you know what? Hang on a second. This looks real. Let me put in 10,000 hours on this really quickly.
Yeah.
As fast as I
Oh,
can.
fuck. If we had that mindset at 20, man.
And being around people that at the time, and I go back to an environment that I was in, that everybody was okay with what they were doing. And I had a different mindset. And I was like, I want more than this. And I didn't immigrate to America to just be okay with this basic life. I want more. I want freedom.
Yeah.
But it's a lot easier to go pursue that, or to have the energy and the guts to do that when people around you are doing also, right?
Absolutely.
We are community creatures, right? That's one of the basic human life needs, is having community. So when you have a community around you that's doing that, so I felt like I spent a few too many years around people that were not growth minded. And once I made that move, it took off. So I wish I had done that earlier.
I would probably say I had the same thing. I think many of us probably would say the same thing. But what you said about the community, I think, is absolutely monumental. It is the most important thing. And I mean, shout out Matthew Frederick, one of my first mentors that actually started talking in millions. And when everybody in Canada was just getting started in flips or wholesaling or burrs, and they're like, "Oh, infinite burr, you got 200 doors very quickly." He was the only one that was saying, "Is like, all of that is true, but if you do just 10 or 20% commercial and 80% residential, you'll very quickly become the best at residential. And just a little bit of focus on studying and understanding how this works will make you infinitely better over here. And you might eventually gravitate more towards that side as well." And he was the first person that I ever heard talking about millions. And I didn't understand. I'm like, how are you just dropping? Like, how are you just like, it's like 2.3 and then this one's 5.7. You just put it in the what? What are you talking about? How are you just dropping these figures like that? Where how expensive is single family real estate, right? What's the cap?
Yeah.
You kind of cap out very quickly. Whereas you're talking $80 million deal.
But it's fun if everybody around you is talking
It's
at,
normal.
it becomes normal,
Yeah.
right? So we're such, creatures of our environment
Yeah.
that everybody, I mean, most of the guys around me in Dallas that were, a lot of them hanging out with, well, they were flying private.
Yeah.
They had private jets.
Oh, Dallas,
I was
yeah, fuck
invited.
yeah.
I was invited on some of their private, and that is just so crazy,
Yeah.
right? And they're like living this crazy lifestyle. So
Yeah.
like, there was nothing, right?
Yeah, it's
so
not-
just
it-
like,
yeah.
So I was like nobody and doing nothing around the group that I was at, right? And even though at times you have to stop and take a step back, there is a great book, The Gap and the Gain, by a Canadian, that talks about entrepreneurs always looking at the horizon, but the horizon never arrives, right?
Yeah.
Because the farther you travel, the farther the horizon line moves.
That's right.
So at times you have to stop and look back. It was like, wow, look how much progress I've made, right?
Mhm.
Because we're really hard on ourselves of just chasing the horizon the entire time.
True.
And that's what he talks about. That's the gap that you're always working towards. But if you stop and you look at the gain, you got to stop, you got to look back, and you got to celebrate, not only with yourself, but with your team.
That's right.
Right? To be able to do that. Because that was my mindset too at the time, that everybody was just like living, and growing at such a crazy pace. I was like, I got to keep up with this too. Dan Sullivan is the author of that book. Highly recommend for any entrepreneurs. The Gap in the Gain. It was just like, it was really changed my mindset again.
Yeah.
I just, just came out a few years ago.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's all about upgrading the software,
Yeah.
right? We all have the same hardware, but you got to keep updating. So, well, let's get into it. Let's do a rapid fire round. You ready?
Let's do it. I don't know what's coming, but let's do it.
What is a book that changed your life?
Oh, there you go.
You're like ahead of my question. I'm like, man, this is going really well. Like you're ahead of every question.
Well, then I'll give you another one. So, Dan Sullivan, The Gap in the Gain.
Yeah.
Also by Dan Sullivan, Who, Not How.
Ah, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So really changes. Halfway through reading that book, I stopped and I put wanted ads to hire 2 other people on my team before I even finished the book.
Yeah.
Right. So Who, Not How. Especially when you're going from being a solopreneur or running a small team to growing, you still feel like I can do it all. No, that book was also, life changing. So both by Dan Sullivan. He's another mentor of mine. Part of his group's called Strategic Coach, which is a Canadian company that does coaching for entrepreneurs. So I'm with them, and I've learned a lot over the past few years. I've been with them on my 4th year now, doing that. But
amazing. I love that. Yeah, and that's definitely a recommended one for anybody watching. I would suggest reading that. Now the second question is pretty cool. Is my favorite question of the whole show, and it is, if you could identify yourself with any character, fiction or nonfiction, cartoon, anime, movie, TV show, real life, fake, whatever, who would you identify yourself with?
Oh, that's a tough one. All right, so I grew up not watching TV. So all my friends joke that I didn't have a childhood because I didn't watch any cartoons.
Yeah.
So I think the only cartoon that I saw was Popeye.
Yeah.
A little bit of it.
Yeah.
Well, man, that's a really tough one. Should have sent those questions ahead of time so I could
It's gotta
prepare.
be in the moment, man. Sometimes, this is why I don't send them, because people will, they'll sit on it and they'll come up with 3 different canned open.
I didn't even know we were recording today. I thought we were just gonna hang out. He's like, come by the studio. I thought we were gonna hang out and talk.
Or hanging out with the camera. It's the same thing.
No pressure. Thousands of people are gonna watch.
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
Well, it was not my life story, but one of my favorite movies, The Pursuit of Happiness.
Okay.
Will Smith was on it. I would say that, which is a real life story,
Yeah.
right? The lead character, how that guy defied all the things that went against his life.
Yes.
And made it at the end, right? For himself, for the family. And like this scene of him showing up, with without a shirt for the job interview.
And still closing.
And still closing, right? And trumping everybody else. So I wouldn't say, I can't say I'm him, but he inspires me.
Yes.
Right? The way that he I faced a lot of adversity. I made a bunch of stupid mistakes also,
Sure.
but the way he faced adversity and now know in real life where he ended up. So I'll say that from a movie. Yeah, so that's
I
the
love
one
it.
I could relate to.
I
I
love
hope
it,
that
though.
answered your question.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, and that's the first Pursuit of Happiness reference. So that's cool. Biggest red flag in a person.
Selfishness. Someone that's selfish. If that's something that I feel like I'm allergic to.
Mhm.
And
Selfishness.
I feel like I'm a very giving person, but if I notice that someone is selfish around me, then I become selfish on purpose because like you're not gonna get away.
Yes.
So yeah, I just have zero tolerance for that, and I feel like I can, perceive that from far away.
I'm with you there 100%.
Yeah,
And I don't like to measure how much I give. And selfish people are always looking at what they're going to get. And you're
exactly.
right. It
Yeah,
puts you in that mode of, well, now
yeah,
I have to eliminate the people right away
hmm
because I don't want to measure how much I'm giving.
yeah.
I just want, if I have this much and I want to give it, I want to give it. And that's what it is. So I agree with you 100% on that. Um, what's the best money you ever spent?
My place in Medellin.
Ah. Well, I gotta come check this out, man. I haven't
Please,
seen your
yeah,
place. I
I'd
want to
love to have
see.
you. We just finished the rehab earlier this year, so I moved in like in February
Oh,
officially.
amazing.
But 100% once I get there, and I spent more than I wanted. The rehab, we're like, oh, we're gonna do a few things. I ended
And
up
then everything.
knocking everything down and rebuilding. But is my happy place
Yeah,
now. Doesn't I don't get tired of my view of everything about it.
yeah.
So best money ever spent. That was it.
Love that.
And it was all cash. It had to
Yeah.
be cash, right?
It has to be cash. Yeah, 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 yeah.
I wish I could put a mortgage on it and go invest some of that money, but
Yep.
not the case here.
Um, so I have a question. It's very interesting. Let's pretend that 18-year-old Dante is looking at you right now. What would he have to say?
Oh, you were thinking way too small. Way too small,
Yeah.
at that time. And but at the same time would be really proud. Uh, uh, Proud of the accomplishments, proud of the friendships that I've made, through all that. I have an amazing group of friends that I was just with this past weekend and, over the past few weeks in Dallas. And we've been friends for 25 years, 20,
Amazing.
20 plus years. Uh, I a couple years ago, I never done a birthday party. A couple years ago, I decided to do a birthday party, but I was limited. It was a concert show and decided to get a suite and have some of my closest friends in. I could only bring 21 people. Everybody that came was in my life for at least 15 years.
Wow.
Right. So they've seen me, broke and working at a kitchen at a restaurant, and doing telemarketing and doing all that, and the friendships stayed. So I think 18-year-old Dante will be really proud that, how many years later? 25 years later, uh, of what I've built, not only, with career and life, but also with the friendships that I have in my life today. The people that I have in my life is, super important to me.
Brother, I absolutely love that. And that says a lot about you that you can keep friends for that long. I think that's super important.
Well, thank you. I'm proud of that for
Yeah.
sure.
If you had 60 seconds, what would your message to the world be?
I think I share a lot of it as we were talking through it today, but uh, I'll go back to it. It's now just start doing something. Don't wait for the right opportunity. The opportunity, you're not gonna see the opportunity unless you've taken action. And it doesn't matter what it is, right? It could be working out to lose weight. It could be fixing your relationship with your spouse, with your significant other. It could be with your career. It could be with your job. With anything. Like sitting around, I feel like a lot of us are now addicted to social media and spending all this time on our phones, not actually learning something, but like our time is being taken away. And I'm guilty of that
Yeah.
too. Right. And I'm walking through it, but it's like I'm trying to take an action to diminish this, right? To reduce this. But start taking action, sitting around and watching other people succeed and watching other people do really well. It's not going to bring anything to your life as incremental steps accumulate, right? If you just do a little bit today, a little bit tomorrow, uh, it feel like in a week it's gonna feel like you didn't do anything. But then look 3 months from now, and you're gonna see the results. That's with working out. It's the same way with your career and everything else. It's been my case with Spanish. I never stopped my Spanish lessons. Even though I consider myself fluent today, I still do lesson once a week. I do an hour, just like incremental steps.
Yeah,
Right?
I love it, man. How can people get in touch with you?
Um, Dante at tourocompany.com. It's TOURO company.com. That's our website also for our company. And you'll find me most of the time either in Medellin and sometimes in Dallas.
Yeah.
And I'd say part of it traveling also,
Yeah.
discovering new places.
That's right. Brother, thank you so much for coming on. I love it. This was long overdue, but I'm glad we got this one in because I've known you for a while. I always wanted to have a more of a sit down, personal one-on-one, and I'm glad we finally did it. So, man, thank you so much.
Nemo, thank you for what a great conversation. Unexpected, because I really thought we were gonna connect and finally talk. And you're like, oh, by the way, there'll be cameras and microphones as we talk. But it was fun, to share with you and to get to know you better. So,
Absolutely.
and I've learned from being on your events, learned from your experiences in Medellin, and hope to also start doing some business here as you've like been super brave, and I loved all the things that you've shared and how you're a man of action, right? You didn't sit around. So thank you for, inviting me. Love connecting with you.
Absolutely. Guys, until next time, this is Nemology. Peace out. Thank you for joining us on this powerful episode of Nemology. Dante Andrade's story is a reminder that resilience, discipline, and taking action, even when the path is uncertain, can transform your entire life. From immigration and adversity to leadership, team building, and owning more than 1,500 doors, Dante showed us that success is built one decision, one habit, and one opportunity at a time. If this conversation inspired you, share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. Leave us a review and make sure to follow Nemology across all platforms so you never miss the next story, the next lesson, or the next breakthrough. Until next time, keep growing, keep evolving, and keep writing your own story. This is Nemology.